Chappell Roan had an opinion again. Alert the presses. She's coming after mothers this time. Is she really? Let's actually listen to what she was saying on the Call Her Daddy podcast and break this down.
A lot of them are married with children, and like they have their own houses, and like, and to me, I'm like, I don't know when that's gonna happen for me. Like, I don't know when that is realistic, if ever. So,
do you want that?
Like, get married and
yeah.
I don't know. I like, part of me is like, is it even gonna be legal to marry like my wife one day, you know?
Acknowledging that her and her friends are at different stages in life, which is completely okay. And I've talked about this before over here with the whole arbitrary milestone kind of panic that people can often get forced into. Also, she recognized that she's a lesbian and, you know, LGBTQIA plus rights keep on getting stripped away, in the US especially, but that also seems to be a pattern which is happening in a lot of other places as well. So, you know, bringing up the very valid issue of, I may not be able to marry the person that I love. So, yeah, thinking about that.
But kids, all of my friends who have kids are in hell. I don't know anyone. I actually don't know anyone who's like happy and has children at this age. I have like a 1-year-old, like 3-year-old, 4 and under, 5 and under. I literally have not met anyone who's happy, anyone who has like light in their eyes, anyone who has slept.
It's not looking too good.
This is the clipped part that you will have heard on repeat. It's almost like sleep deprivation, lack of governmental support for anything that you need for caring for young children, and lack of a village around you to help raise the child. That might actually cause some problems for you. That may make you feel quite exhausted, quite drained. And all the issues that go along with that may make raising a small child pretty hard. But I bet that you don't know what was said afterwards.
I'm like, why did my parents do that? I'm the oldest of 4. My mom had me at 23.
Recognition that parenthood is hard and that her mother had her when she was 23. Chappell Roan is 27 now. She couldn't imagine doing all of that work and being in that position at the age of 23. For Chappell, this is completely unimaginable. And she's actually recognizing the amount of hard work that her mother put in because she was the eldest of 4 children.
Wait, when you're saying that about your friends though, like, do they think this is all wild, that like how famous you are and like all of it? When they see articles about you, are they like calling you up and be like, Kaylee, what the are they just like, this is your life, like text us when you want to come over?
I think they're just like, they're mothers, like they're busy and they have jobs and lives.
Yeah.
Like I am just their friend, you know what I mean? Like they are so sweet and so supportive and come out to shows, and like they have to get babysitters to come to my shows, and like I don't ever expect.
And then Chappell replies with the friendship that she has with people who are parents.
Like when I go home, I love reminiscing about like destroying public property with them and like doing some illegal and like literally hating the same for 15 years. Like we just can't get over stuff. I will never get over.
And then they go on to talk about friendship. The talk on parenthood was genuinely such a blip, and yet it has caused this huge outrage. What is going on? It's caused visceral reactions like this.
Is hell your child coming up to you and saying, "Love you, Mom"? Is hell the sound of little children whispering in the morning in their bed because they know they're not supposed to get up yet, but they're awake? Is that what hell sounds like? I'm so confused. Is hell your child asking for help? That's not hell. Are we okay? So hi, if you've never seen one, here she is, a young mom of 3 children that didn't get any sleep last night. That's happy, life in her eyes and joy in her heart.
Huh? She never dumped on mothers once. In fact, she was saying how much she appreciates her friends who are parents because they still show up for her, even though they have to go through so many more extra hurdles to be able to even go to one of her concerts. They have to do so much more work than child-free people do. Okay, we're going to talk about this because this has been a topic which I've wanted to touch on for a while, and I'm going to note at the start here, I am trying to use as inclusive language as possible, whilst I'm using the term motherhood because that's most widely known. As is discussed in this book, which I've nearly finished, You're the Only Person I've Told by Dr. Mira Shah, intersex, trans, non-binary and gender fluid people can also have babies. There is a non-binary term for parent which I've come across, which is Ren, Renner or Rennie. This is short for parent, and it's the best known one. However, everybody likes to have a different title, so I'm not going to go giving one blanket statement, because reading through lots of Reddit threads, people like lots of different things, and it varies from country to country, person to person. But I just want you to know it's not only AFAB people or people who identify as women who can become parents, who can fit into this motherhood role. And you know, the subsequent endless task of duties that come along with fitting into the motherhood role.
Do you just love getting to be home with them all the time? Must be so wonderful.
Oh yeah, I mean, that's a good question, you know, but it's complicated though, because I mean, I would love to feel content, but instead I feel like I'm just stuck inside of a prison of my own creation where I torment myself until I'm left binge eating Fig Newtons at midnight to keep from crying.
We need to have honest accounts of parenthood. We've got this woman who's using the audio clip while she's picking up her baby from her cot, smiling with the caption reading, "Never been happier in my life. I'm less selfish, more joyful, more focused." Another negative take by Chappell Roan. All I can think about is the possibility of a friend of hers who is a mum discussing motherhood on a hard day or struggling with PPA or PPD, and Chappell taking it as being hell and speaking on it in the way she has. Motherhood is a gift. So many women would do anything to have a baby. And it got me wondering, why is this blown up so much in a time where reproductive rights keep on getting stripped away, where this image of motherhood has subsequently combined with raw milk, cottagecore lifestyle, and very far right leaning kind of ideologies, and a very, let's be honest, Aryan kind of look to what ideal families should look like. And it's also coinciding with a time where women and girls are being increasingly pressured to go back into the kitchen, into their proper roles as mothers and homemakers. Interesting. It's almost like the flames were purposefully being fanned, because now you get to point at Chappell Roan and you get to say, see what the lesbians are doing? They're ruining the nuclear family. This is what's wrong with woke people. They hate it when people are happy. They're so negative. Women her age, it's their duty to have children. Yes, multiple children at 27. The fact that Evie magazine was involved in the outcry should be telling you everything. If you're fortunate enough to not know about Evie magazine, I did talk about them in my raw milk video. They're basically trying to be a right-wing version of Cosmo, and they are scarily growing in popularity. Anyone who thinks motherhood is one long, soul-sucking descent into despair has either never spent meaningful time around actual mothers, or is so immersed in their own dopamine-addicted main character life that the idea of loving someone with your whole heart sounds like torture. Wow, that is quite a reaction. And on their Instagram, they shared this little slide deck too, where Media Research Center said this: Chappell Roan, a Gen Z pop star who dresses in drag, claims all my friends who have kids are in hell. I don't know anyone who is happy with kids. Fact check. Statistically, the happiest women in America are married and have children. Okay, let me go fact check this unsourced claim, because once again, Brandolini's law comes rocking around the corner like... because it takes so much longer to debunk misinformation than spread misinformation. So I went on a 45-minute long journey yesterday trying to find the exact source here. And guess what happened when I typed in that little statistic? The first thing that popped up was this: the Institute for Family Studies. No red flags there, hey? Where they were referencing the 2022 GSS General Social Survey. But they had no links, no sources there either. So then I kept on going to find the GSS information going back to 2022. And this is the part which took up most of my time, because my goodness, they made it super hard. But I eventually found it with this chart, which is referencing the information which they kept on trying to share without linking back to it. My God, why do you think I spend so long linking all of my sources in the description box for people? Their source is the happiness chart as measured over time. As you can see, this goes back to 1974. And this light orange line, that's married people. But very similarly, I could filter for condition of health, and the happiest people are those who are healthy. I could so easily go making this into a headline too. The happiest people in America are also the healthiest. In an ableist society that basically punishes people if they're ever sick? Yeah, no kidding, Sherlock. Plus, when you look at the historical data, married people overwhelmingly are the happiest. So this isn't news in any way. So just for funsies, I was playing around with the different filters and saw the citizenship status. Wow, people who aren't citizens are the happiest? Why didn't they make this the front page news? And wouldn't you know it, the people of higher class, the people of higher wealth are also the happiest. It's almost like having that safety net of all of this money allows you to be able to get healthcare, maybe holidays, all the fresh fruit and vegetables you could need, and a retirement plan. Oh my goodness, you could even afford to buy a home. Wow, it's almost like money can indeed buy things that can bring you happiness because you feel secure. Maslow's hierarchy of needs and everything. I mean, I guess in one case with Cheesehead over here because he is deeply, deeply unhappy, but we'll be getting to him soon, don't worry, in a future video, so subscribe for that. But why is it that Media Research Center would be trying to make this into front page news? Who are they exactly? They're an American conservative content analysis and media watchdog group, and it's owned by this guy called Leo Brent Bozell III. Anyone with the third in their name, you know that they do not tip in the US. You just know it. He is an American conservative activist and writer. Bozell is the founder of the Media Research Center, an organization whose purpose it is to identify liberal media bias. Interesting. And plus, think about it, in this whole happiness report, you only had single or married. There wasn't like any in between for people to be able to select other things because relationships don't just fall into those two categories. Yes, I know that I am a married woman, but at the same time, there are very many different variants of romantic relationships and platonic relationships. Plus, you know that I'm going to bring up with this data right here, single, child-free women are the happiest. Wow, this has been brought up time and again. It's almost like they could be trying to counteract this narrative by trying to say that it's actually married women with children that are the happiest people, you know, by trying to have this whole messaging to counteract the knowledge that we have that women who have friendships, who have good careers, who have fulfilling lives and don't actually want to be in a relationship with a man, you know, because they've had to deal with men, as you have told me, not really participating in the relationship. Therefore, you are the one that's looking after them. You're the one doing the laundry. You're the one doing the cooking, the cleaning, and all that other stuff, you know, and all of that emotional labor. Yeah. And we've got another person like Tallow Mum who, please do not trust the words of anyone that is trying to promote tallow to people, because it is not actually very safe to use, so please don't. Chappell Roan going on Call Her Daddy saying none of her friends with kids are happy is a prime example of why you cannot just vent to anyone, because I guarantee she has this perspective because a few of her mum friends are going through it. And may a friendship like that never, ever, ever, yes, 3 evers, find me. May the friendships of narcissistic, childless women with no sense of loyalty ever find me. Here's the thing, we have to keep silent about the reality that comes with motherhood. I wonder how this person felt about Samantha Ravindal sharing her traumatic birth stories, you know, because there is a lot that actually can indeed go wrong when childbirth happens, as I'm sure many of you have endured, as you have told me across multiple of my videos. Sharing people's quite grisly experiences of tearing, of stitches, of pooping, of epidural mishaps, of the stuff that Samantha has gone through and the incredible pain that she's dealt with after giving birth. Yeah, you don't want that to be known, because then people might be turned off having children. And it's a woman's duty to have children, remember? Apparently sharing people's lived experiences and talking about issues isn't being loyal. It's like honesty is out, propaganda is in. While some people took the bait and furthered the fire against a woman who is unsure about having children in her future, many others were adding to the conversation, sharing why it is hard to be a parent. And no, it's not because of the kids. Like Meg Smith with this TikTok. I take no issue with what Chappell said, but I need y'all to know the problem is not the kids. It's the cost of diapers, the cost of formula, it's the bill in the thousands you get in the mail shortly after giving birth. It's the lack of access to postpartum healthcare. It's the lack of paid parental leave. It's the staggering cost of childcare. It's a skyrocketing number of mums with postpartum depression and postpartum anxiety. Those issues are on a systematic level as opposed to an individual level. And this is the part which these right-wing outlets don't want to be talked about, because that means that facing the fact that, we should actually be getting taxes from the rich people, because then we could have better social safety nets for people, which would make people overall happier. When it comes to the US in particular, there is a strong clinging to individualism, that it's the mother's failure if she is struggling at all. Not the fact that the government's let her down by reducing or removing or flat out just never even having those social support safety nets, which people need to be able to thrive. Because hey, child rearing is a hard job. I have said it time and again, and I have nothing but admiration for parents, because it is very tough. Lots of these places like Evie and these mummy influencers who tend to be more on that right kind of leaning space, they're really acting like this scene from Night Bitch.
Happiness is a choice.
A valid response to that.
Happiness is a choice.
I'll try.
I think it's important that people are able to have honest conversations about how hard it is to be a parent in a society which basically lets you just flounder. It's seen that you should be able to, quote, handle it all because mums especially are often called superwoman for doing it all without ever recognizing that they have to do it all because there is no village to support them. Especially in the US, there's no healthcare support, there's nothing. Someone News did this excellent video, which I'll have linked for you down below, about the cost of childcare and how unreasonably expensive it is. And it even listed here in Aotearoa as being a really great place when it comes to the benefits which we have for parents. Now, there are indeed some really good things, such as, you know, you don't have to pay tens of thousands of dollars in order to just be able to give birth here. But when we're on about childcare, we have incredibly high child poverty rates here in Aotearoa, with children that sometimes only ever getting one meal a day from school because that is a free meal, which David Seymour with the right-wing government has really been sabotaging terribly. And we're one of the most expensive countries in the world when it comes to childcare. So in a lot of cases, it makes more financial sense for mothers to not actually return to work because the childcare costs are that high. And that is even with people getting 6 hours a day, up to 6 hours a day, of free ECE, early childhood education. And there can be this uncomfortable judgment when it comes to mothers in the workplace because they're expected to just leave like 2 different lives. They're meant to just leave everything at home and not have to worry about it, whilst at the same time also knowing everything about their children and taking care of them all the time and being the one to take them to the doctors and all of that other, you know, very important, critical stuff that does indeed have to happen. But that sort of expectation, that sort of judgment doesn't fall on fathers, though, does it? It falls on mothers in your workplace. I'm sure that you've seen this too. I've definitely confronted people when they've had this attitude towards mothers because it's like, my God, they are doing a 24/7 job, which they're not getting paid for, and then they're also coming to work where they're expected to be at that kind of full capacity and do the same amount of work as everybody else in a shorter amount of time because people are like clock watchers and they're like, oh, they're leaving at 3 o'clock. Oh, must be nice picking up your child from school. It's like, yeah, no, it wouldn't be nice because not only are you dealing with all of the BS at work and this huge workload, you then go home and have to deal with all of the kid stuff too, and just do everything. And it is critical to recognise the intersectionality issues here. Māori mothers are 2 to 3 times more likely than Pākehā to not have their child in care due to the cost and accessibility of such a resource. Among the different ethnic groups in Aotearoa, New Zealand, Pacific women and their children are the most likely to suffer from the financial burden of childcare. Single mothers, low-income earners and disabled women are also disproportionately impacted. And we are counted as a, quote, good country. In the US, the cost of just giving birth is in the thousands. According to this Bloomberg article from 2024, people with employer-provided health insurance in the US are charged about $20,000 to have a baby, more if they need a C-section, and incur somewhere between $2,600 and $4,500 in out-of-pocket costs. Birth complications, or if the baby spends time in the NICU, can drive prices up even higher. As the author Claire Sudarth wrote, meanwhile, when my daughter was born in 2020, the total cost of her birth was nearly $90,000. 2 years later, her brother, a much simpler delivery at the same hospital, cost about $26,000. Again, this was before insurance. And that debt keeps on haunting you, as this paper shows. The Association of Childbirth with Medical Debt in the USA 2019 to 2020. Postpartum women experience higher levels of medical debt than other women. Poorer women and those with common chronic diseases may have an even higher burden. So, you know, just go through the trauma of childbirth, get slapped with debt, and then you're left on your own, basically. Good luck to you.
That's right, I'm supposed to be babysitting.
It's not babysitting.
But when it's your own child, yeah.
The motherhood burden. As I saw someone comment on that Evie Instagram post, hell is the lack of empathy our society shows towards mothers and parents, not parenthood itself. It is unavoidable that this burden mostly falls on the person who gave birth. Think about it, there's all of these celebrations and congratulations. Yay, you're pregnant, that is amazing. Oh my goodness, you get a baby shower, woohoo! Yay, the baby is born. But after that point, you are forgotten about. Everything is then meant to turn on to the child. People don't even ask about how you are, they ask about how the child is. When we're on about the whole happiness thing, which the right-wing outlets were trying to fixate on earlier, when you actually look at the point in life where people have children, they are all excited, the lead up to having a baby and all of that excitement, have the baby, and then it suddenly drops off afterwards, only once again picking back up when the child is of a more independent kind of age, like 8, 9 years old. You know, you don't have to be constantly monitoring them everywhere that they could possibly be. They can, you know, make a sandwich at that point in life. You know, they're a little bit more independent then. In the chart, you can see the significant dip when children are below the age of 5, especially. And Chappell Roan is 27, so it's almost like her friends could be around about that sort of age as well. And wouldn't you know it, that would be the sort of age where children are about this under 5 sort of age. And she even mentioned that in the interview too. And one of my patrons highlighted this piece. Chappell Roan is right about motherhood by E.J. Dickinson. As a mum of 2 myself, I don't know a single mother who would disagree with the crux of it. I can't remember the last time I had a conversation with a mum of a child under 10 where we didn't talk about how little sleep we were getting and how utterly stressed out we were. Sure, there's a spectrum, and some mothers seem better equipped to deal with that stress than others, but the stress is still present because that's just the day-to-day reality of raising young children. Social media has allowed mothers to share their real lived experiences and give this finally unfiltered look at what is actually going on in their lives. They've shared the double standard in terms of workload, like Faraday's videos on Instagram and their songs are incredible. And she also talks about how men get seen to be such a good dad for just taking their kid to the park when the woman has actually done all of the work leading up to all of that, all of the getting ready, the bath time, the bedtime, the waking up, the feeding, the everything, the sorting out of everything to do with their lives. And then the dad takes the kid to the park and gets told, "You're such a good dad."
Such a good dad.
Such a good dad for doing one thing to her 20 things. This is portrayed excellently in the movie Night Bitch. Amy Adams just captures this so incredibly well. She stays home to look after their child due to the childcare option available not being any good, and her husband says,
I would kill to stay home with them every day, for what it's worth.
You think that you would, but I assure you, you would not.
and when he is, quote, helping her at home, he is constantly asking her to do things whilst he's meant to be doing the helping, such as when he says, oh, I'll give the kid his bath, that's fine, we'll go for bath time, woohoo, that would be fun. And then she's trying to relax on the couch, and it's like, oh, honey, this, honey, that. Like, she never, ever gets to actually relax.
What?
It's just when you're gone, I do this by myself every day.
Even making coffee in the morning. He's like, oh, why haven't you made the coffee? The rage this movie gives you about weaponized incompetence, it is done so well.
Coffee yet?
No, not yet. Will you do it?
And I'm really glad that weaponized incompetence is no longer seen as like a, haha, funny, men are so silly kind of joke, and is seen like a, no, you should know this. It's part of being an adult. If you want to be a parent, being a parent doesn't mean like babysitting or helping out sometimes. It's like both of you should be involved properly in the raising of the kid and doing the stuff. It is a lot of work.
I thought we weren't doing screen time.
Like, mothers are the ones who tend to have the burden of being the household manager. How many street interviews do we have to see where fathers don't know anything about their children that they are meant to love? They don't know where their kid's birthday is, they don't know their favorite color, they don't know their kids' teachers' names, they don't know what school they go to, they don't know if they have any allergies.
Not that I know of. You do.
Penicillin.
What color are your daughter's eyes where she's standing right next to you? These poor kids, you can see the light go from their eyes as their illusions of a father that is actually invested in them don't know anything about them ultimately. Like, you see that shatter happen on screen for everybody's entertainment. And then there's always people that are commenting saying, oh, well, he's working 11, 12 hours a day to put food on the table and whatever. In most households, she is working too, but then doing a double shift to take care of the kids and also be the manager for everyone, including probably for that man, and sort out his medical appointments too. So no, don't go giving me that BS.
Name the best friend of each of your daughters.
Mari Carmen Rojas, Jimena Lopez, Adamari Lopez, Cristina Cornejo.
Good. Can you give us the name of their doctor?
Fadi Torres.
Good. Can you give us the name of their dentist?
Games Dental Land.
What are your daughter's birthdays?
Yes, May 28, 2009, August 8, 2013, February 24, 2006, June 5, 2006.
Now, of course, I am not saying that all parents are like this. This is just a common trope that things do indeed fall into due to gender stereotype, due to social conditioning, due to the way that society is set up, due to parents passing on those patterns to their kids and not breaking the cycles. And I could do a whole video about the trope of men resenting their kids because they're jealous of them because they're not getting the full attention of their wife anymore. Did you know that a majority of abortions performed in America are actually done on people who are already parents? According to 2019 CDC data, 60% of people who get abortions have at least one child. But abortions happen for a variety of reasons. Financial issues, health issues of the parent or the child, relationship issues, instability of work, and there's so many more, and they're all multi-layered. And I'm gonna once again shout out this book. There is so much misinformation about abortions and the stigma and the shame around it, even though abortions are actually safer procedures than giving birth. But that's not widely known, even though in the US, which is quote the best country in the world, maternal mortality rates are the highest of any high-income nation, and within the US, the rate is by far the highest for black women. Most of these deaths, over 80%, are likely preventable. And 2/3 of US pregnancy-related deaths occur during the postpartum period. It's almost like lack of access to free and affordable healthcare has actually caused many preventable deaths. But the thing is, Bryony, being a mother is a duty if you have a uterus. It comes with having the parts. It's not the government that should help you. It's just something that you should be doing. And then it goes on to the messaging of you got yourself into this mess, that you're the one that needs to take care of it because this is just what mothers do. Mothers are meant to shoulder this burden so incredibly well and have their children be seen and not heard. Don't you know that women are meant to be virginal, pure, and self-sacrificing? That's what makes a good mother. The mother that never complains and never says what is really going on. It's like as soon as the baby's out, you're meant to be this long-suffering sacrificial lamb according to how society actually treats mothers. Everything is your responsibility now, and oh my goodness, do parents feel it? Especially those who fit into the motherhood role. Like, think of how mothers typically get portrayed in media. They're like frumpy, unwanted, they've quote given up, and their husband resents them because, this isn't the person that I married. Why isn't she sexually attractive now?
Mom, what's wrong with your body?
They're seen as this gross letdown if they're not able to do all of this stuff and keep the house perfect and just be this perfect, doting, pure wife. Unless they're explicitly a MILF, in which case they're also shown to be as kind of like a cool mum, but who isn't really judged to be a good mum by the other mums. Not to mention this ridiculous pressure and standard which is pushed on women especially to snap back into their pre-baby bodies. I could do an entire video about this entire topic, honestly.
Great moms organize class parties and casino night. They bake cupcakes that look like minions. All the things I'm just too tired to do.
Where is the village? As this TikTok says,
we all need a safe place with people who understand us. So for you mamas out there, I need you to find a safe place. Because if you were a safe place, you'd get it. You'd understand that they didn't hate motherhood, but they just knew it was difficult. That in that moment they needed to vent. And I think now more than ever, we need safe places to vent, brave places to be able to say, whoo, I selected this, I chose this, I love this, but damn, it's hard.
But Chappell Roan never said that mothers hate their kids. If anything, she's stating how hard it is, and what's wrong with saying that? What is wrong with publicly acknowledging that it is hard raising children basically alone? The village hasn't really existed for a while now, and I am positive if you spoke to your parents or your grandparents, you would find it was really hard for them too. The movie Tully does a fantastic job showing the difference that money can make because it can buy that village that you are lacking. Like, her brother's rich and has a nanny who is highly educated and qualified and basically raises their children. And Tully and her husband have 2 children, one of whom seems the child is possibly autistic. It's never really explicitly said, but he struggles massively and often has meltdowns if things are too loud or not done in a certain way, even if she tries to park in a different place when they're going to school. She's pregnant with her 3rd child and her brother has paid for a night nanny so she can get some rest finally, still getting up to feed during the night, but otherwise able to sleep. We see her husband is away at work a lot, or when he's home, he's playing video games while she's doing the childcare.
Have to wake up 5 times a night or whatever? You don't even wake up anyway. Well, I don't have boobs.
She struggles to accept the help of the night nanny, saying,
I'm just not used to people doing things for me, that's all.
But her life is massively improved because she actually has the support now. Her house is cleaned, washing is done. She even has cupcakes made for school once. She has this magical thing called capacity and time back in her life to cook meals, to not feel permanently exhausted and at her wit's end, to work out, and to have fun with her kids again because she has what? Support.
She seems really awake.
It's almost like having support around you when you're dealing with very young children is quite critical. One of my patrons was sharing that when their children were under the age of 5, that was when they were feeling the loneliest. That was when it was really hard to have a community at all because, like, where they lived, they weren't anywhere close to their parents and there wasn't really a community vibe there. It only got better after the kids were able to go to school. But if your only community is your parents or your partner's parents who then go to side-eye you all the time, go against your parenting wishes all the time.
New razors too, if you're thinking about defuzzing those legs.
Make passive-aggressive judgments and comments constantly. That's not really a very helpful community. It's not a stress-free kind of community help to be getting, really. Of course, there's caveats to everything. Unless the parents of that child are like psychologically hurting them or physically hurting them, then they should be going with the wishes of those parents, you know? When children are under 5, it can be a really alienating time with little support. And then if you do try to connect through a support group, there's accessibility issues, wealth differences, different lived experiences. Like, you're not guaranteed to become friends with someone just because they're a parent as well. In the same way where kids at school, they're not all instantly friends with everyone who's the same age as them. And I don't even have time to go into the judgment that mothers face constantly, especially around like things like prams and things that they use as tools to help their baby or whatever. Like, seriously, Tiffany Ferg has done an excellent video all about this. I'll have this linked for you down below, about this judgment, this classism, this consumerism and pressure around babies, but also there is so much judgment and side-eyeing that happens constantly. Oh, you want a decaf coffee? That's got trace amounts of caffeine in it. You're a very irresponsible parent. You know, like, strangers feel entitled to judge you. It's almost like being a YouTuber, but in your everyday life when you're way more vulnerable because this is actually your lived experience and then you've got other people judging you to your face. What is it with people feeling so entitled to do this? It makes no sense to me.
Nobody ever tells you beforehand how ridiculously hard it's gonna be.
Final thoughts. I have to say, I have also seen the garbage notion from a bunch of people saying, well, you chose to be a mother, so you're not allowed to complain. Excuse me, what? What is something that you do all the time, which you do also complain about all the time? You go to work, you applied for the job, you went to the job interview, and then you accepted the job role. Well, if you're able to get through all of the AI hurdles, as I've talked about. So that means that you're never allowed to complain about work. Huh, Blink-182? How dare you come up with this song?
Work sucks, I know.
We need to be okay with people saying that they're struggling with parenthood without trying to equate that to them hating their children, because that is absolutely not true. Neglectful, resentful, and abusive parents do indeed exist, and you have told me about your experiences with them, and that is one of the major reasons that a lot of people do not want to go having children themselves. But that's not the same thing as people venting about their struggles with parenthood. These are very different things. Yes, sometimes people who fall into these sort of abusive categories can keep on saying, oh, woe is me, oh, my life is so hard, in order to try and play the victim when they're actually just being neglectful and abusive to their child. That's not most of the people that are just venting about the issues that come with parenthood in a world that treats mothers as if they are just unworthy things that should just handle everything themselves with no support for them. Someone saying that things are hard does not a bad person make. I'm glad that Chappell Roan has accidentally started this much bigger conversation about how mothers especially are effectively dismissed by society but expected to keep being there, Children are expected to strive for it, but there's a difference between finding motherhood hard and becoming a mother when you don't want to be. What we have seen in more recent years is people openly saying that they don't want to become mothers. Heck, there's even a trend of people saying that they would become parents if they could be the dad.
It's times like this where I realize that I really would have liked to have been a dad and not have to go through the 9 months of pregnancy. That's absolute torture. And then the childbirth. And then you get stuck like this postpartum. I wish I could have been a dad.
And I think a lot of us can recognize that they're quite right with that. But the thing is that because you're born with a uterus, you have to do a majority of the work. This is your burden to carry, and you better carry that burden well. And you better be gracious, you better be grateful the whole time, you better always say that you're blessed. As I've talked about before, I personally think it's better for people who don't really truly want kids, and I mean truly want everything to do with kids and will accept the child for whoever they turn out to be as they grow up. I don't think those people should become parents. I don't think that those people should be forced to become parents, because going back to this book, which I'm reading at the moment, researchers at UCF compared children born after their mothers were denied abortion to the next children born to women who received abortions. They found that children born to a parent who was denied an abortion were more likely to live in households in which there wasn't enough money to pay for basic living expenses. Women, as discussed in the study, are also more likely to experience poor bonding with the child, feeling trapped as a mother, resenting their child, or longing for the time before they had the baby. Why are governments trying to force people who aren't sure or who do not want to have a child into parenthood, into motherhood specifically? Because let's be real, a lot of this is around the uterus. Why are they removing access to reproductive healthcare services, which I consider to be a human right? And I know from a lot of you sharing your experiences with me, you know exactly what it's like to be raised in a household where your mother didn't want to become a mother, where they didn't actually know the reality that comes with being a mother. I think it is so important that we've got people being honest about their experiences to help people be better informed about something, because seriously, there is no job listing which lists everything that mothers do when people get pregnant. There's nothing like that, like when you apply for a job and then you ask questions about it beforehand. There's none of that. This is why we need to rely on people's lived experiences and people being honest about hard days. That doesn't mean that they can't also share the joyful times. It's even addressed in these movies. When the mothers are still struggling and they're at wit's end, then their kid maybe randomly says, "I love you," or they kiss them or something, and then your heart melts. There is nothing wrong with acknowledging the struggle that comes with parenthood at the same time as saying that you love your kids. Like, have we completely lost nuance at this point? There's still this misconception that a lot of people's grandparents had so many children because they wanted to. Did they really want to? Have you ever truly questioned that? And are they socially allowed to tell the truth that they weren't expecting a bunch of those pregnancies and they weren't really all that happy about it? No, because you're never meant to say that, because that's another big taboo, and that's another video I want to make on people that regret becoming parents, because that is a separate topic. Good, in my books, to acknowledge that parenthood is a job, so taking care of the house is a job. But in doing so, then what? The unpaid labor of typically women that the world relies upon would have to be recognized? Would that cause capitalism to crumble? More on that in a future video. Recognizing that we need better support systems to be in place for parents is not a radical or dangerous thing to say. Sharing that you are struggling because you've been abandoned by the state is not a bad thing to do. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, please just leave the sigh emoji. Because I am sick of people being told it's their duty to have kids if they don't want them. That people try and shame and force people into parenthood. And I'm sick of societal structures being taken away or never being there in the first place to support parents and children. You want people to have more kids? Make a good environment for people to want to do that. Increase wages. Have safe schools by having gun control. Walkable cities, accessible public transport. Free, and I do mean free, third spaces for parents, for kids, for teenagers to be able to go. Free healthcare, including dental and vision, free childcare, universal basic income, and more. It's almost like when people's like lower levels of hierarchy of needs are kind of met, then they may feel like they've got a bit more capacity to have children, because I know that there are so many people that would love to have children that don't, because they can't financially afford to do so, because things are not stable enough for them to do so. So yeah, if you want people to have kids rather than forcing people into it, make the place better. It is completely possible. Okay, I got a little bit heated. So I also just want to say a special thank you to all of my patrons, because as always, they help to inform the videos that I make for you, and their input is always greatly valued, and you see it in these videos where you have really good chats. And I want to say an extra special thank you to my top tier trash panda enablers: Alyssa Pisani, Birgit, Carrie Quake, Danielle, Jem, Laura Bell, Megan Connolly, Michaela Garfinkel, Mila Gautier, Stella Sapiente, Tammy Poitras, Tim Long, Tonya Beignet, and Varu Cat Mama. Like, you know that I don't want to have kids. Brandon and I had this conversation like 3 months into our relationship, because like we knew that we wanted to be together forever, because we're mushy and silly like that, you know. And I'm so glad that we had that honest conversation, and we talk about this all the time, because he works really long hours, and I know I would hate him if we had children. Genuinely, because I know it would be mostly on me, because his work is so demanding. I would be a complete shell of a person, and I'm struggling right now with a stomach ulcer and my many other health issues that I deal with. You know, all I have is a husband and 2 cats. I don't know how parents do it. I've got so much admiration for them. Things need to be better, and they can be better. Just tax the rich people more. My goodness, it's not that radical. Anyway, okay, officially, bye-bye.